And hello, everyone. How are you doing? It's Dave Bondi. Good to see you on this edition of Keeping It Real. We are live on all of the platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, and Locals as well. And stay tuned because after the end of this show, I am going to be going live on Locals only, and I'll be having a discussion there on Locals for the paid subscribers only. If you would like to become a paid subscriber on Locals, look down in the comments. I'll have a link down there where you can join. So tonight we're going to focus the entire show on one important issue, and it's an issue that I've been talking a lot about: the food we have been eating in this country. It's literally killing us. It is killing us. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Some would say so, but I've talked to numerous doctors, scientists, and they tell me, chefs, even chefs, and they say the food is killing us. The processed food we're eating in this country is horrible. And what about school lunches? Also bad. I'm hearing stories about school lunches where kids are eating chicken nuggets that are coming out of a plastic bag. It's not apparently healthy. I'm also getting stories about slushy machines with red dye and so forth. There's so much going on. And whether it be a public school, a private school, you wonder why parents are pulling their kids and homeschooling, because they're getting this sort of thing. But it also comes down to McDonald's, Burger King, all these fast food places. We are becoming an unhealthy country. Well, one of my followers here on social media, her name is Lisa Genza. She is the founder of freedomkitchenkids.com. She left her job in the big corporate world. She was at General Motors, EDS, several other companies. She left her big corporate gigs in order to go on her own and try to make food healthier for children. But not only make it healthier for children, but to change the narrative, to teach them how to cook healthier. She's now working with several homeschool groups, a public school group, I believe, trying to change the way our kids eat and how they cook, because the cycle needs to be changed. Because a lot of you watching right now, and share this video, by the way, share this video if you're watching right now, hit the share button. The food we're eating is killing us. So I talked to her just a short time ago about this, and it's just amazing the things I learned about what's happening with our kids and the food they are eating. Joined now by Lisa Genza. I've connected with her on social media, and you see her here on the screen. First of all, it's great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave.
And we're going to talk today about, I had one topic in mind, and it was brought up by my wife about school lunches. And then it was, I interviewed a chef, international chef, a couple months ago or last year about how our food supply and processed food, and we're not really getting good food. And then I went to my doctor recently, who is very amazing woman, and she admitted, yeah, a lot of the food we're eating is just horrible. So then I found you. I think you found me on a social media channel somewhere. I was just complaining or talking about the food we have in schools and in real life, and it was just frustrating. And then I think you spoke a little bit about what you do, and I guess give us a rundown. Freedom Kitchen, that's what it says on the screen, and then we'll go back into your history a little before then. But what are you doing currently?
Currently, I'm setting people free from corporate control and from the source of our food. What I've come to realize is truly our freedom begins and ends in our kitchen, and it's the best place to teach critical thinking. So I use cooking as an experiential process to teach people about health and well-being and set them free.
So it's your combination of those things. Let me bring up your website here, because as I'm talking to you, they may want to go to your website to look more. Let me bring it up on the screen. It is freedomkitchenkids.com. That's it right there, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go into let's back up into you, because you haven't been doing this your whole life. You've been doing many different things. What led you to this point? And 10 years ago, would you ever think you would be doing this today?
No, not at all. I have degrees in management and technology, and I spent 25 years with GM, EDS, and Hewlett Packard. So I have a tech background, and my brain works, like an engineer. So I look at systems. when you're building technology and networks for as many years as I did, you have to look upstream and downstream. Well, it took my own failing health for me to look at the system of my body. And when most of the medical profession failed me because they could not discern what was going on with me, they wanted to treat every part of my body separate. That's how our medical profession works now. Is our medical profession looks at, they have their specialties. So they'll look at your wrists separate from your ankles, separate from your blood sugar. So it really was a combination of health issues that I had that led me down the path of exploring being a health coach. And then I started coaching others.
And did that get into what was it? Your health? Was it just? Did you change your eating? Or delve into a little bit about that. What was it with the food and in our eating habits and so forth that you had an aha moment? I guess.
It was entirely diet and lifestyle. And so when I had my IT job, I worked a lot of hours. So we ate out a lot. So, of course, I fed my kids on boxed foods, packaged foods, prepared foods, and fast foods. And what I came to realize is my type 2 diabetes, fibromyalgia, the pinched nerves I had from inflammation in my neck and my back, which were making my hands go numb, although the medical profession wanted to do carpal tunnel surgery. But that wasn't it at all. It was actually pinched nerves from inflammation. All of this came together and it was diet and lifestyle. And so I started teaching people. I had this sense that we needed to detox. We needed to detox our lifestyles. And I went down the path originally of detoxification, and I'm trained and I practice a number of things like AccuDetox. I had a wellness spa for almost a decade, started teaching people how to clean up their diet and lifestyle. The only reason I ended up into cooking classes is because the number one question I've gotten now for 16 years, I've been a health coach for 16 years. The number one question is, what does healthy look like? Lisa, I think I'm eating healthy. I don't know what healthy looks like, or I don't even know how to cook. This is the tragedy of all of us moms going to work. I was the first generation of moms that went to work, and we stopped cooking and we stopped teaching our kids how to cook. And now I have people come to me and sheepishly they just say, I don't know how to cook.
Wow. So are you assisting? Is it? I see your website. Is it just children or adults, or who are you advising?
I've been teaching adults for 16 years, and
Okay.
I moved to predominantly kids 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was asked to teach a kids cooking program, which I was not seeking, did not think that the kids would resonate with the healthy living, healthy lifestyle that I teach. Because I said, if I'm going to create this program, it is not going to be chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, or pizza. I just won't. I'm going to teach the kids. And Dave, I thought these kids were going to hate me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they love it. Every single year, I have kids that come back. I've had families that have stayed with me for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They've put multiple kids through my program. So every year I go deeper and deeper with the kids based on their questions. So I can tell how much it's resonating with them. And then I take them further. They're asking me now how they can be part of the solution.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where are they? Where are they coming from? Where do you find these children? I mean, like you said, my daughter is 11 years old, and I talk about healthy eating or different things, and she immediately is like, eh. So where are the kids coming from? Where are you finding them?
Well, I always say it's better to hear it from the other mom. I've already raised my kids, and I'll tell you, they listen to everyone else's mom but me.
Okay.
And I've heard that from my friends, my kids' friends, parents as well, like that their kids hang on every word I say, but don't listen to them. So there's
Yeah.
something to letting me just be the other mom so that they can learn it from me, so that there's no butting of the heads with the parents. It's interesting when kids go through my program, they go home and start telling the parents, I'd like us to purchase this. I don't want to eat things with food dyes. They'll say, does that have refined sugar in it? So
Wow.
they begin asking and they begin educating their family. And so what I'm seeing is a role reversal is where if we let the kids lead the way, I'm watching the whole family improve their health without any resistance or any pressure, because it's really coming from the bottom up. It's a grassroots effort, quite literally.
Wow, that's amazing. Because yeah, with us, my wife and I, we were wanting to eat healthy, but then we're healthier. But we're like, oh, but the kids have this. But in this way, the kids are the ones spurring the change with this program, which is, great idea. And there's your website again right here. So, for does someone do you have like is it classes to one on one? Explain how it all works.
Yeah. So you asked me also where the kids are coming from.
Yeah, yeah.
Oxford Virtual Academy in Oxford, Michigan, started a hybrid program where they're catering to the number of homeschool families in the area.
Oh,
And so it was Oxford Virtual Academy, which is an offshoot of Oxford Public Schools. So it's an interesting arrangement. I'm not sure how many school districts have that.
probably not many.
They're the ones who had asked me to create a program for their virtual academy, which has now become accessible to every Oxford Public School student at no
Wow.
additional charge to the students. The district does pay me for those students. And then I have homeschool groups coming to me. So I have been contacted not only by other homeschool groups in Michigan, but now I've been contacted from at least 6 other states, of people asking me, how do we bring your program here? Which is exactly what I've been working on next. I think who really resonates with my message are more the homeschool families. I mean, just the word freedom.
Well, yeah, and there are so many more homeschool families every week, especially here in the state of Michigan. We have so many children have left the public school system for various reasons. But that's the mindset of a homeschool, or you get more critical thinking, more worldly look at things, and that seems like a perfect connection. Now, if I have someone watching from a homeschool in Illinois or a cooperative somewhere, can they just reach out to you on your website?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you the contact right there, contact me. So
Yep.
go ahead and then you can get up because that sounds like a great idea. But also, like you said, public schools, you're willing to work with, I'm assuming, anyone to get this message out there.
Yeah, the kids have showed me that they're interested. The program has grown excessively year over year to the point where now I am bringing on facilitators because I can't even handle the number of kids that are coming into the program.
Wow.
I'm also really disenchanted, Dave, because I worked with my PTA when my kids were in school, and it's an uphill battle when there's money involved. So we had a red slushy machine, that at our middle school. And I remember talking to the principal and I said, do we need to have this red slush? So red food dyes, for those that don't know, are known to cause aggression, anger, and a lot of behavioral and focus issues. We don't need to be pumping red food dye into our kids during the school day and then think that they're going to sit down and concentrate. And the principal looked at me and said, I don't like it either, but the parents put it in because it makes money for the athletic program. So you see, there's so many forces that make it difficult to change a system, like in the schools, that I find it's just better to go right to the kids. And so these groups that I have, these Freedom Kitchen kids groups that get together and they cook together, the kids are talking to each other. I'm really just facilitating and I'm asking them questions as any good consultant would do.
Yeah.
I ask them questions and get them to think about different answers. And based on that, those kids are inviting their friends into the program and they want to continue growing with Freedom Kitchen kids.
Yeah, and the word is spreading, and it's God works wonders because I never would have met you if I wouldn't have been complaining one day about school lunches or whatever. But partially how the obstacles that are faced, I had discussion with many parents who are upset with school lunches, and then they went to the administration and they're like, well, this is part of the federal guidelines, and federal guidelines this and federal guidelines that. It's kind of disappointing that a district can't break free from something because they're worried about, well, the federal funding says you have to do this or you have to do that, whether it's healthy or not, which is kind of disappointing.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things that are disappointing. If we look at the food pyramid, we'd probably need to turn it upside down, right? So let's just start there. That if that would have been structured the opposite way, we probably wouldn't see the health issues that we have today. So there's a lot of misconception. That's why, there's There's more than 250,000 health coaches. That wasn't even a profession when I was growing up. Like, no one wanted to grow up and be a health coach, but we became health coaches because we had to solve problems for ourselves or someone close to us. And so every single health coach that you meet in this country overcame something themselves, which is what led them down this path. And we're all finding that we were just fed a lot of misinformation, what now seems to be marketing messages, right?
Yep. Yep.
It wasn't nutrition message, it was a marketing message. So we really need to start, revamp the whole thing. And I think that's why working with the kids, where I can talk to them and get them to question things and show them alternatives, is really the best way to go, because you just can't get that message through to the school if that's where their funding comes from. And then you have to look at those contracts, like that Kraft Heinz contract for the Lunchables. It's a bigger problem than what most of us are prepared to deal with, because most middle-class families have Kraft Heinz in their retirement fund, in their 401k. See, we
Okay,
hired.
so go back a minute. Explain that, because some people may not know the Lunchables and the schools. What was the connection that there was with that?
Yeah, they signed a big contract to have Lunchables, and I don't know if it's all the schools. That could be a generalization, but many or most of the schools. So there's a huge contract. And so Heinz Kraft, they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. Their shareholders got a big boom in shareholder value, but that is not in the best interest of the health of our kids. And this is where we're making short-term decisions, or we're making monetary decisions. And what I like to point out is we can't keep blaming someone else. Don't blame the school. Don't blame the government. You need to start by first looking in your 401k. Are you investing in Kraft Heinz? Because if you are, then they just did what you hired them to do. You didn't hire them for the health of your kids.
Let me share this real quick. I just brought it up. This headline: Lunchables have concerning levels of lead and sodium. Consumer Reports finds, and just there, and that was published in April of this year. That just came out. I mean, that's our children we're feeding this stuff to. And as I've gotten older, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but money is what drives a lot of things over children's health. And that's sad. It's really sickening, actually, but it's sad.
Yeah. Well, and we see that across the board. I purchased a bunch of cooking class curricula used in our K through 12 schools. When I was asked to create this curriculum, I thought, well, what else is being taught out there? And I was disgusted, because it was all box mixes. This is what's being taught in our K through 12 schools, and they're being called cooking class. Well, I don't think reading a box on, a cake mix or a Jell-O mix is learning how to cook.
So wait, that's what they're teaching. So they're not teaching from scratch, or they're literally teaching it from a box.
Yeah.
So they're setting that child up to be they don't know any different then.
Exactly. So I attended an event with educators, and I took some of my books with me, and I said, do your students by any chance have any of these issues, which would include autism, dyspraxia, dyslexia, ADD, ADHD, depression, any focus issues, attention issues? They said, yeah. And I said, it's not a mental health issue, it's a gut issue. This is the gut and psychology syndrome. And I said, do you know what the withdrawal symptoms are? And so I had a list of withdrawal symptoms, and I took another book with me on processed food addiction. And I gave them a list of withdrawal symptoms. And I said, do your students exhibit any of these behaviors, particularly after lunch, possibly even after breakfast? Because, we know how breakfast is now too.
Yeah.
Well, and they said, yes. We had no idea. I said, well, those students are going through active withdrawal. I mean, processed food and sugar addiction is real. It's more addictive than, other hardcore drugs, which has been proven. And so this is a textbook. This has brain scans in it that shows, what makes me sad, Dave, is we are already addicted.
Yeah. I mean, myself, I went off fast food for about 8 months. And then all of a sudden I found myself going back. Like it was a drug. It felt like it. And then when I got back on it, it was just like, hard to get off. And you're saying it is like a drug.
It is. Yeah. This is all proven. So, cheese, we call cheese a comfort food because cheese activates the morphine receptors in our brain. So, the way this food, there's a book called The Dorito Effect. We're intended to get a dopamine hit. And then it's kind of like the slot machine. You get a quick win typically, but then you'll keep putting the money in because you're waiting for the next dopamine hit, right? Well, what's a little more nefarious with processed food is they give you the quick dopamine hit and then it activates the morphine receptor in the brain and sedates you. You can't stop. This is how we get to the bottom of the bag or the end of the package. And we don't even know how we did it. And it actually became so palatable, it wasn't even enjoyable at the end.
It's funny you say that. I did that the other day. My wife bought or got an ice cream cake from somewhere, and I found myself, she yelled at me, and she should have, that I ate almost half the cake. And when I was done, I'm like, what did I just do? But as I'm eating, I want more. I want more. So it's literally, it's mental, or it's just like an addiction. And afterwards, I felt horrible. I'm like, oh my God, I feel disgusting. I feel horrible that I did this. And you're describing, I'm describing exactly what you're just talking about.
It still happens to me, and I'm very aware of it. And once those dopamine receptors are activated, it's like we've all heard an alcoholic goes into remission. It's the same thing that doesn't go away because those dopamine receptors, those neurotransmitters are wired now. And so if we allow that to happen to these kids at younger and younger ages, they will battle this the rest of their life. And so Freedom Kitchen had a lot of meaning to me to set people free because I understand the corporate greed aspect, but I also understand the physiological aspect in hooking their brain and controlling them, quite literally controlling them to eat more, spend more, buy more.
So you're changing the narratives. You're getting with the young people. Hopefully you're changing the cycle. When they get older and have children, they will do, this way of eating and healthy, instead of, you try to work with adults, obviously, but changing it from the very beginning. Because you have children now, I bet, that you've worked with. When they do get older and get married and have kids, they're going to implement this probably with their families.
Yeah, that's the hope. And you see there, the tagline on my site is choosing creativity over convenience. My generation was fed a bill of goods here that we needed these convenience foods. Hamburger Helper was going to help us, especially because, now I was going to go bring home the bacon and make it.
Yeah.
All those cliche things that my generation, did. And we lost our ability. And so this is me. This is consultant Lisa now. When I went into underperforming accounts, I wondered why people couldn't critically think anymore. There was no creativity to solutions. We couldn't problem solve. And I would ask questions. Why is this being done this way? It doesn't make sense. Well, that's the way I was just told to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I realized this whole convenience mentality is stifling our creativity. And so I'm teaching the kids, like, cooking is a creative endeavor. Don't choose convenience, choose creativity over convenience, because anytime we choose convenience, we're actually giving our power away.
So you're also teaching critical thinking, which is something that I'm seeing is lacking in our society, actually, from many sides.
Yes. Yeah. So back to the research and the brain scans.
Yeah.
When we eat processed food, we have no access to our prefrontal cortex. It actually puts us into our limbic brain and we go into fight or flight. And so whenever we're eating these, comfort foods, we've lost our ability to critically think. And so just think about all the people like that I worked with who were eating out of vending machines throughout the day, me included, who were eating out of vending machines throughout the day, picking up dinner because of the hours we worked. Yeah. Now we've got free breakfast and free lunch and subsidies and stuff at the schools. I'd be cautious of free.
Yeah, nothing is free when you look at it, but absolutely, yeah. Why? So you talked about like the school lunches, for example. Why? I would ask, why wouldn't they want the healthiest food they can be? But it's all about behind the scenes. It's all about government contracts. It's all about this and that. And it's not 100% about what's best for the kids. They say it is, but it's not.
Yeah, it can't be, Dave. I've I've spent 20 years looking at this, both from raising my kids to then becoming a health coach to then going into consulting. I've looked at this from multiple perspectives, and I hear them saying we're going to do things better and different, but nothing's truly changed. And I've sat on committees. One of my best friends sat on a committee for Lake Orion schools for years. Nothing changed. So there's a lot of talk, but we don't really see the change. Now, there are some groups. There's School of Lunch. Hillary Boynton, she's going into schools and teaching them how to scratch cook.
Oh.
There's the Chef Ann Foundation doing the same thing. It's not moving very quickly, though. We have 12,500 school districts in this country. We have 73 million kids. How do we get to them?
And the one thing that's going to help is what I guess we're doing right now, parents speaking up, just continuing to have this discussion, but not being shy, educating yourself. And then when you're educated about it, speak up. Like, for example, my wife went to the school and said, what's going on with the lunches? So people need to not be afraid to just voice their concerns, right? I think because a lot of times, like, oh, I don't want to step on any toes. No, go ahead, start talking.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't say that you're always met with a warm reception when you do that, but
yeah. Or continue to talk, or like for yourself, the more the school districts that get involved with you, word spreads. But especially, I think the school districts, like I said, a lot of kids are leaving public education to go to homeschooling. Some public schools are wondering what's going on. Well, what's going on is they're embracing people like you and your program, and they're getting something they're not getting at the public school. I think eventually you would think the public officials, the lawmakers would they think that this is what's happening. You can't just keep doing the same thing. It's not working.
I don't think we really know what their ulterior motive is. I don't.
Which is sad. Yeah.
Exactly. I haven't been able to discern truly what the goal is. I'm not sure it's the health and well-being of our children. If that's the case, every teacher should have read the Gut and Psychology Syndrome, especially in Oxford. We had a school shooting. There's a lot of talk about mental health. We don't talk about gut health. No one's addressed the food. This is where we're very short-sighted, many of us. We'll talk about gun control, but we won't talk about what causes anger, rage, depression. Right here, anger, rage, depression. Here, addiction. This is more prevalent than people realize, and they want to stop at this very first high level issue. I just often witness, but my brain works a little different. I look at a whole system. So I look at, like, I used an analogy with you, like the tree. You can't cut off a branch to kill the tree or the top of a tree. It won't die. That tree, because it's all in the root system, right? No one looks at the root. So let's just go cut off this branch and talk about the topmost issue, but this whole systemic issue underneath doesn't get addressed.
You're absolutely right. For example, when I went off of Coke, Pepsi, fast food, I felt happier. I felt lighter. I felt I slept better. I wasn't as angry. My wife, we didn't argue as much. So literally, and you're saying it's not just a physiological, it's the whole body, because I felt better. But after I went back, had McDonald's or something, I just felt like, oh, and just kind of grumpy.
Yeah, no, it's proven. And I've interviewed a number of people on my summits who were suicidal, literally dying, and went off processed foods and reversed everything. Literally the depression lifted. So I share everything. I'm an open book. From 26 to 32, I was on Ativan, Zoloft, and Wellbutrin.
Wow.
So I've struggled with anxiety and depression. And the minute I start eating grains and refined sugar, I have that moment of weakness and I eat the ice cream, I'm depressed for 2 or 3 days, like literally hard to function.
So why, as a society, and you said we may not know, the medical big pharma, well, I know maybe why with them, but the medical industry and so forth, they don't see that. That's not talked about because it's not a conspiracy. It's proven. I live that. I eat better. I exercise. I'm healthier. Why isn't that made a big priority? Probably because there's a lot of money coming in different directions, I assume.
Yeah, you know, when Bayer Aspirin also owns the largest chemical company in the world, you know, you have to look at who sits on whose boards and how they're tied together at the top. I
Yeah.
didn't want to believe this. When I started researching all this around 2007, I did not want to believe that this was intentional. But you start going down a path of, well, they do know that fluoride doesn't help prevent, and fluoride in our water doesn't help prevent cavities. They also know it destroys our thyroid. They also know that it calcifies the pineal gland, but yet it's still there. They, they know that glyphosate blocks the shikimate pathway and it inhibits our body to detoxify, but yet they still keep spraying it.
And isn't it true? I think my doctor, who's very open and goes against the grain sometimes, she told me other countries have banned certain foods that's true, right? That we eat, we consume. Other countries have said no.
Yeah. There's been a systematic dumbing down of really like a tunnel vision that I've witnessed. And, I'm much older than you. So I've spent 25 years in corporate America in consulting. I've spent 16 years as a small business owner now and as a coach. And I've really seen a lot of limited thinking, like blinders. So that's not my job. Well, that's not what I'm told. Well, I believe this, or my doctor said this. And there's a lot of programming. Some of that probably comes from mainstream media too. There's a lot of programming, and then people don't question it beyond that. I just
Yeah.
want I just want people, especially our youth, I just want them to question. I tell them, question me, question everything.
Yeah, I tell everyone growing up as a journalist, when I first started, that was how I was trained and how I was taught to question things, to don't, but now it's way different. I was a hiring manager at the TV station. I don't know what they're teaching in college. Some of the it's very scary indeed. So hopefully you are breaking the cycle. More people like you, more discussions like this, and it's word of mouth. Like you said, the Freedom Kitchen Kid, you're growing, right? You're expanding, you're getting the word out. That's a positive.
Yes. Yes. The kids need to know. I have this book here, Saying No to a Farm Free Future. This is the plan for them, Dave. The plan is that they will not grow their own food and they will not farm. And we're seeing those liberties being taken away everywhere across the country, and quite a few lawsuits here in Michigan where the state is going after farmers. And so the kids need to know, where does food come from? Does it come from the ground or from the grocery store? And I love what Mark Baker says. He says anyone can farm. He's like, take a tomato seed, put it in some dirt, and look, you have tomatoes.
But you don't think that. You ask the average, kid or so walk around, you get it at the grocery store, and some kids might be amazed. Whoa, a tomato comes from the ground.
Yes. Well, this is where we're headed with Freedom Kitchen Kids. My kids are all learning not to eat food dyes and not to eat high fructose corn syrup, and how to read labels and how to make things. They make galettes and pie crusts, and we make everything from scratch. I've gotten away from using anything kid friendly because that is way overused, and that's often adults projecting what they think is kid friendly. And I have now moved to kid approved, because everything that I'm adding to my website, the kids in my program have contributed to or given feedback on. But I'm really involving them, Dave. My goal over the next decade is to pass the torch to this generation, because they are the future leaders, and we need to start treating them as such.
Yeah, and break the cycle as well. Freedomkitchenkids.com right there. So if someone wants to reach out to you, I'm assuming when they hit contact, you'll get that email probably.
Yes.
Okay. I thank you. And I want to have you on again too, if you wouldn't mind, maybe in the future, because this is something we need to talk more about, with mental health and this as well. One reason why I left the media, they're not talking about the important issues like this that matter. You turn on CNN, they're yelling at each other all day about politics when they should be talking about an issue like this.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
Thank you so much